everyone. So, um, I'm just realizing now that my calendar needs to change. How awkward is that? Anyway, this video is a little not outdated. I should have done this video a little bit earlier. It's in reply to a comment on my kennel video about why your dog should have a dog kennel, regardless of whether you use it on a regular basis or not. And it was a training issue about how to help train or facilitate the training of a dog being kennel trained. It's actually a very common problem to see dogs who don't like to be in kennels. There's a lot of issues. There's a lot of psychological issues that can go along with that. The most common is just unfamiliar territory or too familiar of a territory. A lot of dogs who are rescued from shelters, who are left in their kennels for a very, very long period of time, become uncomfortable in their kennels. Hi, Tequila. Because that's they don't want to go back in because they've been there long enough and they associate being in a kennel with a bad thing. The other reason is usually a fear response, which is not normal. Your dog should be, most dogs actually really don't mind being in kennels, so there's something that's scaring them about that. Probably connected to the first point I made, being that they're scared that they're not going to come back out. So, one of the biggest things that I tell people who have dogs who don't like to be in kennels is reevaluate the size of kennel that you have. Now, I know if money is an issue, this might be something that might take you a little while to either sell the kennel you have, trade the kennel you have for a larger one, whatever. But if you have a small kennel that you're using, it might be too small, and that's why your dog feels like it doesn't want to be in it, because it's too cramped. It's too confined. Hi. Just cat day on my desk, I guess. So if you can upgrade the kennel to a larger kennel, you might find that your dog is a little bit more comfortable in it, a little bit more willing to spend an extended period of time in it. Another thing that you're going to want to consider, especially if the dog isn't in a kennel for like the entire day or whatever, is exercise. In my opinion, exercise 9 times out of 10 is the root of all problems. Usually, an inadequate or an improper form of exercise is the reason why your dog doesn't want to stay in a kennel and have a nap. If your dog is excited or has been in a kennel all night, and then you go to work and the dog's freaking out, or let's say your dog spends most of the night out in the kennel and then you go to work and you have to put the dog in the kennel, if they haven't had an appropriate amount of exercise or the appropriate kind of exercise, then they're not going to want to stay in a kennel all day. So one of the first things I recommend to people who find that they are not, their dogs aren't tired when they come home from a walk, is to invest in a backpack. You can get these at a lot of different specialty pet stores, boutique pet stores. My favorite carrier of backpacks is Outward Hound, which is a division of Cajun, I believe. They come in a lot of different styles, but essentially all you're looking for is a backpack that's going to fit properly. All the bells and whistles after that are really just that, bells and whistles. So what you're going to want to do is put enough weight in the backpack that your dog is not struggling to walk, obviously, but it's going to be resistance on them. So most dogs, you can start at about 10%. Dogs who are a little bit more heavier build can probably go a little more than that. My St. Bernard, when we started walking her with a backpack, she weighed about 100 pounds, but we were giving her about 15 to carry, and that's what we were finding. We were finding that 10 wasn't making a big enough of an impact with her, so we kind of upped it a little. If you have a dog who is maybe recovering from being underweight or doesn't have that muscle tone, then you might want to start at the 10% and work your way up. So what you're going to want to do is put the backpack on your dog and put the weight in the backpack and pretend like nothing is different. I know a lot of people will put the backpack on, take the backpack off, put the backpack on, take the backpack off. Really, who you're talking to, some people are a big fan of doing things in stages and doing clicker training, and I love clicker training, especially for certain behaviors. But I find that um, with something like a coat or a backpack or something like that, if you react to it, your dog is going to react to it. So if you put the backpack on and he pretends like nothing's happening, then just kind of go with it. If you find that your dog is resisting you, then yes, maybe you need to take things in slower steps. But I find that most dogs don't mind. As soon as you start walking, really, they don't really notice the difference. So what you're going to want to do is take your dog out for at least half an hour of good, solid walking. And you're going to want to avoid your dog doing the, my friend had a perfect name for it, and it's not coming to me, but when your dog does the zigzag back and forth and you're being pulled behind the dog, that's not really a productive form of exercise. Your dog is really just pulling you around like an idiot, and you want there to be some respect to go into the walk. So be sure that your dog is walking nicely. Now, walking in front of you or walking beside you is really just a personal preference, in my opinion. I have bad legs, so I ask my dogs to walk beside me, and not in front of me, because if they're in front of me, then I can trip on them, and I have awful balance. So walking beside me means that there's nothing in front of me for me to trip up on. If at all possible, in that half-hour break, if you can bring your dog somewhere that there is a safe, big flashy red light, safe place for them to run off leash, then, you know, running around off leash for 5-10 minutes is much more satisfying to them than a walk for 5 or 10 minutes. So you're going to want to make sure you take the backpack off, because you don't want them to hurt their back in the event that they start rolling on it. Take the backpack off and let them run around for 10-15 minutes. If they'll play fetch, frisbee, any sort of chasing game, that's, you know, something that you might want to engage your dog in. And then after you've had that 10-15 minutes of running around like an idiot, put the backpack back on and continue on your walk. Once you get home, I recommend that you feed your dog in the kennel. You put the water dish in the kennel, you put the food dish in the kennel, because you want your dog to understand that this is a spot to lie down and to rest. There is a few videos online. Cats are just going nutty today. There's a few videos here on YouTube about how to capture or train your dog to be more relaxed and to encourage them to be calm, which are exercises you can try with your dog. But really, you're going to want to make this kennel the most satisfying thing that you can. So put a Kong with, you know, a really tasty treat. Peanut butter usually is a fabulous one. If you need to up your game, though, I am all for bribery. I am not beyond bribery. If you put a couple hot dogs in a Kong and throw it in there, or roast chicken, or raw chicken, or beef, or, you know, whatever it is that your dog just thinks is the best thing on the planet, then those are the kinds of things you're going to want to put in the kennel. And it is going to take a while for your dog to become used to this new environment. So at first you might want to only let them stay in there for 5 or 10 minutes. And, you know, take them out of the kennel, close the door, and pretend like nothing different is happening. It is going to take some time. There are other methods of training your dog to use a kennel. That's just the one that I find have worked the best. Now, there are, like I said, there are other ways. I know some people who will use more of a clicker training method, where they will put the treats in the kennel and then click when the dog gets close, and then puts a foot in, and then puts 2 feet in, and then puts 3 feet in. So your dog eventually learns to go in. I find that if your dog is panicking in the kennel, though, and it's not just a case of going in the kennel, if they go from happy in the house to sheer panic the second that door opens, um, then there's definitely another issue going on, and you need to figure out what that issue is. If it's a case of not enough exercise and them feeling anxious in the kennel, or if they're worried that they're going to be spending an extended period of time in that kennel. Maybe the kennel's too small, maybe they're fighting, maybe it's in a bad spot. Um, I had one dog that I was fostering who, um, when he was, we had him in a quieter room in my house when I was at work, and every day I would come home and there would be a mess in his kennel, and I couldn't figure out why he was messing in his kennel, but was completely house trained. When I was home, he would ask to go to the door, and he'd go out and whatnot. Um, so what I did was I moved the kennel from this quieter spare room into my living room, and instantly he was a different dog. It really just came down to him being anxious in that room and being by himself, whereas when he was with the other dogs, he felt a little bit more relaxed. So those are a few things to try. Give them a try. If you have any questions, post them below. And hopefully I'll do another video today because it's Friday. And I love doing videos on Friday.